One of the things that also happened in the Senate was McCain-Feingold, and it was initially called McCain-Feingold Thompson. And of course, that's campaign finance reform. As you know, Senator Thompson, the Supreme Court has struck down part of that as unconstitutional on First Amendment grounds, such issue ads that you can't run before a general election or a primary contest, which for conservatives like me are just an anathema to the First Amendment. And you now say that you've seen unintended consequences resulting from campaign finance. Would you today tell us that you made a mistake in supporting campaign finance reform?
Laura, ironically enough, all those things you said about Congress, I added one more too, and that was the idea of people and companies and corporations, labor unions, if they were allowed the way they were once upon a time, giving large sums of money to individual politicians. I don't think it's a good idea. And then
what about the issue ads?
Then come out, well, that's a different story. I'll get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But my main motivation for campaign finance reform, the issue ad thing wasn't even being discussed, as far as I remember, when the first debates were had and the first bill was proposed. It was a matter of whether or not you want to get rid of soft money. Bill Clinton and Dick Marsh showed that you could use soft money in ways that people thought you could get put in jail for a short time ago. So they poured it in instead of having the agreed-upon limitations that historically Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, and everybody else pretty much acknowledged were constitutional because they had to do with federal elections and the idea that you don't want to give too much money to any individual member of Congress and then come in lobbying him for a bill. I mean, that's called bribery in the real world. But they came in with this soft money to do the same thing through the back door.
Right.
So we wanted to do away with that. Now they added on something that was a mistake. And that is the issue ads that you were talking about, and I voted for all of it. So I support the first part, but I don't support that.
And do you think at this point, then, that full disclosure of campaign contributions, what sources they come from, and I would say that unions and companies also represent people, and people have First Amendment rights, Senator Thompson. And I'm talking for my listeners and speaking for what they believe. And I think right now we have an incumbency protection program in place where it's very difficult to raise money.
I don't agree on the amounts there, because on the incumbency issue, it was my amendment that brought the $1,000 contribution limitation up to $2,000.
But why should the government set that amount, Senator Thompson?
I tried to get it higher.
Why should the government be in the business of telling me how much I can give to my favorite candidate? How is that conservative?
Well, why should the government tell a loan officer that he cannot accept money from someone trying to get a loan from him, and then go ahead and give that person a loan? I mean, it's bribery in the real world. It is a legitimate function of government to tell a politician or for people to decide that it's not a good idea for me to be able to give a congressman who I'm trying to influence a large sum of money right before my vote comes up. Now, you can have a debate, but our country decided that was a bad idea. Historically, worldwide, you can go back to ancient Rome, and you will see comments made there. Barry Goldwater, conservative Republicans of times past, have all agreed on a reasonable limitation. Limitation's been too low. And as I say, I offered an amendment, and we fought to get that limitation higher. I think it's still too low because the low limitation is an incumbent protection. Incumbents are going to get their money. You need a higher limitation.
I just don't like government telling me this.